Welcome back to another episode of History in Your Own Backyard. I'm your host, Susie Selleck, here today in Cincinnati, Ohio, at the former Torrance Road railroad station. Stay tuned, this is cool, and I'll tell you all about it. The Torrance Road Railroad Station Depot was built in 1907 at the foot of what was mostly abandoned and replaced by Torrance Parkway about 200 feet to the west in the late 1930s as part of the Columbia Parkway project. The depot was built for the wealthy people who lived on the top of the hill in Walnut Hills, as the rich didn't want to go into the then filthy downtown Cincinnati to catch long-distance trains out of the city. The passenger station was on the Little Miami Railroad, operated by the Pennsylvania Railroad Company. This is a great story. In 1909, First Lady Helen Taft suffered a stroke just 2 months after her husband became president. It affected her speech, right arm, and leg. The Pennsylvania Railroad, well, they knew that the Tafts preferred using the Torrance Road station when visiting Cincinnati, so they built an elevator and pedestrian walkway specifically for her that year. At its peak, 24 passenger trains a day would stop at the station. Passenger service ended here and at Pennsylvania's main station at Pearl and Butler Streets in downtown Cincinnati when Union Terminal was completed in 1933 and all passenger trains were rerouted through Norwood to the new terminal. The Torrance station was then abandoned and demolished in 1933. However, several relics from that era still exist if you know where to look. The most obvious structure is still standing. It's the lower level of the ticket office and entrance located just across the street from the iconic St. Rose Church. The building is still intact, but it's bricked up and filled with dirt. An emblem from the construction company that built the retaining wall by the main office is still embedded in the concrete. You can also find the old portion of Torrance Road where it goes up to the tracks, crosses, and then curves back to meet up with Columbia Parkway. This portion of the road was still open to traffic in the 1970s and possibly a bit later. However, the coolest part of this abandoned railway station is the giant red-colored terracotta on the far side of the tracks and embedded into the retaining wall. This terracotta was created in 1890 by the famous sculptor Carl Bitter for the Pennsylvania Railroad for their Broad Street Railroad Station in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It portrays 2 early settlers to the region and was one of 8 or possibly 10 such terracotta sculptures created by Carl Bitter that were featured on the outside of the Broad Street train shed. Each terracotta represented a city that the Pennsylvania Railroad serviced, including Chicago, Pittsburgh, New York, Boston, and Washington, D.C. The train shed, designed by the Wilson Brothers and Company, was at the time the world's largest single-span structure, a little over 300 feet wide, 589 feet long, and 108 feet tall, and tipping the scales at 7 million pounds. Unfortunately, in the early morning hours of Monday, June 11th, 1923, a fire broke out in the Philadelphia train shed and burned for almost 3 days, basically destroying the complex. After the fire, Pennsylvania's President Samuel Rea offered the sculptures to the cities that they represented. Cincinnati accepted the offer, and it was placed in the wall underneath the walkway overpass at Torrance Road in 1924. The historic piece has been embedded in this retaining wall for almost 100 years and is thought to be the only one of the Philadelphia train shed terracottas still in existence. Thank you for watching another episode of History in Your Own Backyard. I'm your host, Susie Selleck, here today in Cincinnati, Ohio, at the former Torrance Road Railroad Station. Hope you enjoyed your time with us. Remember, travel slowly and stop often. Bye for now.